All right, first of all, thank you, Rabbi Garfinkel, for inviting me to come down here once again. I was told, or at least the title, the way it was advertised, Learning from the Past to Succeed in the Present. So, of course, Rabbi Garfinkel was thinking of the older people in the community, those grandparents in the community, such as myself, those people to learn from the past, right? Is that what you were thinking about? Yes. Okay.
I'm not a grandparent.
As we joke about it, just give a little background on myself and my wife Chani. We have 4 lovely daughters. 3 of them are married. All 3 of them have children. We have 3 grandchildren. Okay, 2 granddaughters and 1 grandson, and I have a youngest daughter who's now in Israel, spending my credit card daily and living there with your daughter as well. That's right. And thank God, I watch as time moves on, and you see as a parent what you've learned from your parents and what you pass on to your children, and a lot of teachers as well, people that I've learned from. And I'm hoping to share a little bit of that with you tonight, and share a couple of stories, some personal stories as well, and hopefully we can be on a journey to learn a little bit tonight together. So thank you for welcoming me and giving me a chance to speak here again. Nice place, by the way, from the last time we were out.
Yeah, bumped it up, huh?
Bumped it up. Okay. So let me ask a question. Let's start this off right. So we know there's what's one of the most famous holidays that everybody participates in?
Halloween. Shabbos.
Shabbos. Halloween, Shabbos. We'll talk about Jewish holidays. Let's try. Yom Kippur. Okay, something else. What's a night that everybody gets together? We're getting close. A little bit further. Passover, right? Pesach, right? Everybody's together. You got the parents, you got the traditions, you got the matzah, you got the wine, you got the 4 children, you got, right? Passover's it's something where we talk about the story and we go back to the past and we talk about being in Egypt and we talk about all the things that we never experienced and never really knew, and somehow we do it every year, right? Again and again and again. I wonder why. What's the point? Isn't it just a story of the past? It's a story, yes, our people, we got out of Egypt, great, wonderful, fantastic. What does that have to do with me today? Why am I sitting around the table with my family and discussing what happened then? One question. If anyone has any ideas, you could already start something, but I'll lead to it, yes.
To put things in perspective.
Okay, good. Put things in perspective of where we come from and perhaps where we're going to. Right? It's not just a story of the past. It's not just something that remains in the past. It's something that needs to be vibrant. And sometimes we experience these things and we're like, okay, we got the Maxwell House Haggadah. That was in my days. Now we got different things, and then nowadays they've got like these 10 plague kits that you could actually throw things at people the entire night and have a great time. It's almost like paintball, right? We're just throwing everything at everybody. But okay, whatever it is, try to make it a fun experience, but there's something deeper there. And then as Hanukkah comes up next week, we're hitting Hanukkah. So again, we've got another story. And of course, I'll make another plug for December 25th party at Rabbi Garfinkel's house. That we have a bunch of Chashmonaim, Maccabees. They go ahead, they fight this war, they win the war, and we eat. That's what we do, right? Some latkes, a nice good oil, and donuts, afghaniyot. If you're in Israel, it's like the streets are lined with oil. It's like unbelievable. It's incredible. Again, something happened in the past. They fought a battle, they won. What are we doing with that today? What does it mean for us today in the year 2020? And 2020 should be a year of some clear vision, you'd hope, by the year 2020. I had to do that. Okay, that's all right. At least someone appreciates a little bit of that, I have 1 out of my 4 daughters that appreciates that. The other 3 always give me the other look. But okay. The rolling of the eyes, you know that one?
The one who's not married yet.
Correct. How'd you know? The rest of them ran out of the house already. Okay. So now, and one more last little question. In general, today, all of us sitting here in this room here, we all identify as Jews. We're all here. We're from a rich heritage, tradition. How did we get here? Why the year, so many thousands of years? Think about it. All the persecutions, all the exiles. The Jews have been moving around decades, everywhere. And somehow we're still here. And somehow there's Jews sitting and talking Torah in the year 2019 going into 20. So how did this happen? So I'm going to share a short story, and then a longer story, and then a couple more stories, because I like stories. Okay, so let's go. The short story, it was a famed rabbi, the founder of Eish HaTorah in Jerusalem, Rabbi Noach Weinberg. And he was a tremendously warm person, dedicated person, taught thousands and thousands and thousands of people over the years. And he was once sitting with a student, who came to study in Israel, and the student says to him, and he says to the student, let me ask you just a simple question. What are you living for? What are you living for? So I was thinking, I'm living, go to college. I'm in college now. So what are you going to college for? Get a degree. What are you getting a degree for? To work. What are you working for? To live. What are you living for? To go to college. And it just kept on going around and around. And he was trying to get him to say, 1 second. You're going through the cycle, you're going through the motions, but where are you headed? What's your Jewish soul talking to you? What's it saying to you? What are you all about? You go through the cycle of going through life, but is there something more meaningful, something more purposeful that you're heading your life towards? And with this, I'm going to share a little bit of a heavier story, which Rabbi Garfinkel has heard from me before, but I told him I'm going to add something tonight to the story, which he didn't know about. And it goes back to a woman in the neighborhood. I grew up in Brooklyn. Please don't hold it against me. I've been in Chicago for 25 years already, so my accent has not totally changed over from what I'm told, but I say everyone else has an accent. That's fine. Okay.
But he plays basketball like he's from Brooklyn.
Till my knees went out on me and I'm done with basketball, but okay. Yes, I do play basketball. Or I used to, at least. So, this woman in the neighborhood, and we'll call her Rachel. Actually, her name was Rachel, so actually it's a good reason I'm calling her that. And Rachel, so Rachel was in the neighborhood, and someone from the old country. See, when I grew up in Brooklyn, there were a lot of people who had experienced a different life in Europe, Poland, Austria, Hungary, other places. And we'd come across, they lived on our blocks, they lived near us, and you'd hear the stories of the old country, but you really didn't know how to connect to them. Some of them had, different way of speaking, the old Yiddish, different language, their English was broken. And somehow I found myself always talking to this woman every so often, just getting little kernels of advice or little kernels of wisdom, someone who was, giving out candy to the guys on the block or whatever it was, just like a nice lady. And she told me the following story once. 1939, she was in Vienna, Austria, married to her husband with a young child, a 4-year-old. And they were trying to get out as they had seen the impending doom coming. She had a brother who was already in the Lower East Side in New York, and he was trying to get them visas and get them out. As they were applying and going through the process and trying to get out as soon as they could, she got a knock at the door one day, and the soldiers came. And the Nazi soldiers took her husband and walked away with him. And then they took her. And the 4-year-old boy was left alone. And as she tells me the story, she said, the little boy, being terrified, of course, and just natural instincts, her son, she was trying to quiet him down, trying to figure out what to do, ran after the soldier and started kicking him. Now, we've all seen a lot of movies. We've seen a lot of these scenes, and usually how they end up. And she told me she doesn't know what got into that soldier at that moment. And he said, "Lass the Frau, leave the woman." And she went back with her son. And as she told me in her Yiddish, and I'll say the Yiddish and translate it, Gott hat uns gehitten. God watched over us. With strong conviction. Not just a lady, she was about 4'10" actually. She was like a little short lady, but don't mess with, some of these 4'10s, they're power packed, okay? So she had this God watched over me. And and what ended up happening was, as she tells me the story, her husband was returned, beaten up very badly. They made the trip, and I actually found the records when they in Ellis Island. They made the trip. They made it to Ellis Island, one of the last boats that came across. And unfortunately, he passed away about a year later because he never recovered from his beatings. And she was left alone with her young child. And she said, I'm telling you this story because she says, you have to know something. When you're saved for a purpose. There's a reason why I'm around. And then she looks at me and there's a reason why you're around. Make it count. Make your days count. Make it meaningful. And it's like, okay, I'm like a 12-year-old kid at the time. Like, like it's a little heavy for a 12-year-old kid. You know what I like to be like, make your days count. It's like, it's not your coach talking to you. And what really made a difference to me in this one was because, you see, Rachel was also known as Ruthie in the neighborhood. I had another name for her too. It was called Bubby. Rachel was my grandmother. And the little boy was my father. And the grandfather, who I never saw, was the man of the story who was beaten by the Nazis and unfortunately passed away right after he came over. And Bubby was giving me a message. When we talk about relationships from the past, pulling from the past, as I said, the 4'10" Bubby, and I still don't get it because I know my grandfather, they said, was 6 foot tall. So I don't know how that worked, but she was, I was saying, she had such conviction and such belief in God and such belief in values and family and Shabbos and holidays. You didn't show up, boy, you would forget about it. You had to show up, okay? You had to be there because this meant a lot to her. And when I was thinking about it, I had a reflection moment a few years ago. In 2015, I went with a group of people on a Federation trip to Auschwitz and to Poland. We spent a week there. One of the heaviest trips I ever took in my life, probably the heaviest of what we saw, just being in that, no other way of saying it, but being in the hell on earth. And I remember walking through there and trying to find a little more information about our family. As I had one piece of paper that I was able to get from the Austrian consulate. They did keep some records, and I found a little bit about my grandmother's background. And so she was from some place called Taranowo-Wataska, Poland. That meant absolutely nothing to me. And I just took it with me, figured the Polish tour guides, I'm going to find out more. We knew her, some of her family was killed, and just didn't know much about anything. So I was hoping to find something. In Auschwitz, there's a room, one of the barracks there, that Yad Vashem has a list of number of names. Anyone been there, by the way? Okay, so you know the room I'm talking about. You walk in, millions of names. I mean, it's just right away you walk into the room and you're just stuck there. And I have the name of my grandmother. Her maiden name was Penner, and her mother's name and her mother's name was Frida. Father's name was Hirsch. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'll find out. We never really knew what happened to them. We knew they were killed somewhere in there, but we didn't have any statistics or any where, what, how. And as I'm looking through this list of like 1,000 penners, I'm saying, really, you think you're going to find it, And sometimes you get this little gut feeling that you go there, and all of a sudden I stop. And I'm looking, Frida Penner, Hirsch Penner, murdered, Lutowiska, Poland, 1942. And I'm staring at this and saying, this is my family. And I had a moment, which I don't even know how to describe it. 5 minutes, I was just bawling. I could not move. And I'm looking at where we came from, and they're gone. And then I see next to it, there's another one, Chaya Penner. I said, who's this? Same family.
Sorry.
And I go home, and my mother actually tells me, Bubby never spoke about it, but she had a younger sister. And according to my calculations, when I did a little more research, she was 23 years old and was murdered together with her parents in Poland. And she also had a brother, Avraham. His wife happened to be named Sarah. Her brother and sister-in-law on the list, murdered in Lutowiska, Poland. So I'm thinking of this woman for a second as I'm reflecting at the end of that day, soaking in the information, seeing the facts. And I knew, yes, her family was killed out. And it didn't mean much to you when you grow up. Okay, they had family and they lost family. Like when you're a kid, you don't connect to that. When you get older and you're building family and you're realizing connections to family, here's a woman who lost her parents, her husband, her brother and sister-in-law, her sister. And she's telling me, God watched over me. And I believe in God, and I believe in the Torah, and I want you to carry on that message. I was like blown away. Like, how does that happen? How does someone have such strength, such conviction, so strong, so powerful? Again, 4 for 10, but so powerful. So powerful. And in thinking about it, I think the message which she was trying to tell me, keep your eye on the ball. Just because you go through hardships in life, just because you go through tough things in life, no one should ever suffer the way she suffered, because she never spoke about it. There's a lot of Holocaust survivors. Never spoke about her family. Couldn't get herself to talk about it. But no matter how much pain and how much there is, there's a purpose in life that doesn't stop. And you keep on raising your family, and you keep on pushing your values, and you keep on learning. And what even struck me even more is when I found out a little bit about my grandmother. See, she grew up actually in Poland, but as I said, the story happened in Vienna, Austria with her husband. So she actually, when she was in her 20s, and in those days, I guess it was like a crisis if you weren't married by 23 or 24 or something like that, and she ended up traveling away from home. And she met my grandfather, and my grandfather was not religious. My grandfather was a professor in university, and nice man, brilliant man from what I heard, but did not grow up in an observant home. She came from the shtetl in Poland, and they got married. Fell in love, they got married. And maybe there were a couple of years, and she never spoke about those years, and when she first raised my father, the first few years, where she wasn't really so in touch with her values and her heritage and where she was coming from, as many people. And then, what struck me is, so she comes to America. She's now a year and a half in America. Her husband's gone. She's alone with a child. Her brother, who's the only one here, is already Americanized, we'll call it, is already no longer living the life of the Polish life that they grew up in their home together. And that's when she decides to send my father to a Jewish day school. And I'm thinking about this. Here's a woman, again, lost so much, and went away from it a little bit, in some ways was not so connected, but yet understood, one second, if I'm going to raise a family, and if I'm on my own, this is going to keep us going. I'm doing this for the future. And she would tell us all the time, family, God, Torah, this is your life. And sometimes I would think, okay, Bubby, you don't have to like get that, get that tough, but no, but this is your life. This is your life. And it meant so much more to me now, thinking back about it, about the decisions she made, the choices she made. That, thank God, I'm here today with a family, my brothers and sisters, because this woman made a choice in 1941. Very few people did. So the value of family. Let me continue a little bit on this. And I think I want to go back to our first question we asked about Pesach. Why do we celebrate Pesach? Why do we get everyone around the table? Why is the family all around? Okay, we were freed. A lot of people were freed from different societies and different cultures and different places. You could be free from something, or you're free for something. The Jewish people were freed, not just to get away and now just do what you want. There was a goal afterwards. We left Egypt, went through the desert, we got a Torah. The old book that Rabbi Garfinkel was talking about. You can even get it online today. Right? It's not, you can see every page. Everything's there, right? There's a purpose, there's a goal. We're free to get somewhere. And the Hanukkah story as well. You go through hardships, you go through challenges. The Maccabees fought hard, but what did they fight for? So the Talmud tells us there were three things that our enemies knew us better in some ways. And they knew the things that were really going to make the Jewish people tick, and I'm going to focus on this for the next few minutes. And they said, you know what? We don't want no more Shabbos. Can't keep Shabbos anymore. That's done. We're Rosh Chodesh, which is celebrating the beginning of the month, no, none of that. Circumcision, none of that. He said these three things were decrees punishable by death if anyone would try to observe these commandments. So the Maccabees didn't just have a war with another culture. They had a war for their religious freedom. They had a war for their existence. They had a war to battle to live up to the life that we want to live as Jews, with values, with family, with tradition, going from generation to generation. Now, why these three mitzvot? Think about it for a second. Shabbos. Because they understood what Shabbos was. People are busy during the week. They work. Now, if that was true hundreds of years ago, and today, 60-hour work weeks or 50-hour, whatever we're doing, Shabbos is, you finally get your brain back. There was an old little video for kids where it would show a person during the week with, someone who's an actuary who's got statistics all over his face. Someone who's a lawyer who's got all kinds of briefs, doctor with medications. And then when it comes Shabbos and you see the sun go down and you watch their face come back. I thought it was brilliant, whoever put that video together. Just to show kids, yes, during the week you got a lot of things on your head and you're not focused. And Shabbos, whoa. You sit around a table, got some family there, go to whatever you're doing, but you're talking meaningful discussions, a little bit about the Torah, about this, something inspiring. And the Greeks knew that. So we don't want you doing that. It's going to keep you guys going. Rosh Chodesh, beginning of the month is renewal, rebirth. Oh, they don't want you thinking about yourself too much. Self-development, growth, mindfulness, forget about that stuff. We don't want you guys focused on that. Get focused on the culture and everything else and just get seeped into the culture. And the Brit Milah, circumcision, that's a connection that's a treaty with God. Oh, God. How long you have anything to do with God? That's not a good thing in their culture, in their minds. And they attacked the big three, as I call it, the triangle offense of Judaism. Chicago, come on, somebody's got to know what the triangle offense is. I know Phil Jackson hasn't been here in a long time, but the triangle offense of Judaism is three pillars that we stand on as individuals, as families, as generations. Is Torah, the study of Torah, Avodah, the relationship with God, and Chesed, or acts of kindness. Or another way of saying it is relationship with yourself, others, and God. Those are the three. Those are the pillars. You want full satisfaction in life and relationships and everything you do? Fill them all up. Fill them all up. Recognize that each one of them has something to do with making you a better person and making the next generations as well. So let me just focus on Chesed for a little bit. As I spoke about the God aspect, I'm going to share one story about my father as well. How much time do I have? I just don't want to go too.
You're great.
I'm good. Okay. So, and this is where you'll see the connection, at least from from my grandmother to my father, really. As she sent him off to school, and what did he do? Of all things, he became a rabbi. Okay. Now you really did good on the Jewish schooling thing here, Like some of her cousins and friends said, he had to be a rabbi, a lawyer, a doctor, a good, come on, what'd you do? You made him a rabbi. And he became a rabbi. He studied in school for many years, became a rabbi, all that. And taught a lot of Torah to a lot of people, and I was fortunate to have many late night discussions with him and many discussions overall, and benefited from his wisdom for many, many years. So unfortunately, he passed away at a young age at 63, about 21 years ago. And I remember during the course of time, he was sick for about a dozen years, really, on and off, in and out of hospitals a lot. And I watched him go through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. And as only a 15-year-old teenage boy could ask, or 16, I think it was at that time, sitting at his bedside one day and having a discussion with him. And I said, Dad, you're a rabbi. You're a pretty righteous guy as far as I know, right? You care about people, you care about community, you care about us. Why is God doing this to you? Totally unloaded question, right? From a teenager, right? And he just looked at me, and I'll never forget this conversation. And he said the following. He said, does your mother love you? So I said, yes. And he said, is there anything in the world that your mother would ever do to hurt you? I said, no. I said, Dad, where are you going with this? You know, I'm trying to like where's this conversation going? And he said, well, guess what? He said, God loves you and me more than your mother. And I'm looking at him, I'm scratching my head. I said, could you repeat that? And he says it again. And he says, and I can prove it to you. He says, we're all creations of God. The source of all love that we have in this world comes from that source. That is the greatest source of love that's there. So if there's something that's happening that we don't quite understand in the moment, doesn't mean it's not coming out of love. We may not have the intelligence yet, the maturity to understand it. Just like, and he used to give me the analogy, because that was the original Star Wars, by the way, I'm outdating myself, and he would love to give me analogies of Martians or people landing on Earth and doing all kinds of stuff. And he said, imagine they land in an operating room. First contact with human beings. Land in an operating room, bunch of people around with masks, blood gushing out all over the place, scalpel, knife, give me this, give me that, do a little this, a little that. They walk in and say, we're out of here, these people are crazy, right? And they jump. And they're looking at that picture like, this is insane. Look at the torture, look what they do over here. We're going to another country. Let's get out of here. Another planet, we're out of here. So, but you know what? They didn't wait around a little bit. Because about 2 hours later, there was a recovery room. And when you walked into that recovery room, there was a happy family there because that operation that just took place. And the problem is when you're in that limited time space, you don't see the full picture. And this is what he told me. He says, you know what? We come to this world 70, 80, 90 years, whatever. Life expectancy is getting better these days, I hope. I'm already in my 50s, so I'm going to be careful there. You know, you want to get right. And we're here for quite a short time, really, when you think about it in the scope and the span of the world. And we come in, and sometimes we see some things that don't look so great. And we're questioning, and we're challenging, and we're supposed to try to improve the world around us, no question. But we don't see the whole picture. We're not getting it. And sometimes some of the biggest struggles we all have as individuals, and that's what I was taught from my grandmother and from my father, those biggest struggles make you a better person. They help you grow. They help you meet them and stare them in the face. They show what a person can do when you're being beaten or when you seem like there's nothing left in the tank. As the great sports analogies, I'll bring a little basketball in, right? The great stories, you know, well, I'm originally a Knicks fan, to tell you the truth, but they haven't really won anything since the days of Willis Reed, which was even before me. And the famous story of him limping on the court, you know, in the game of the championship, he just gave it whatever he had left in the tank to give inspiration to his fellow teammates, and that lifted everybody up. And I watched my father study all of Talmud, study all of Torah, in his bed, say the Tehillim, Psalms, every single day, the entire Tehillim, 150 chapters, for 13 years when he was there. And he told me, he said, the way I understood this, that if I'm sick and I understand what it means to not feel good, I should be thinking of other people who aren't feeling good. So he took lists of names of people, and every day would be saying the entire Tehillim every single day. It was an incredible thing to watch. And the impact that it still makes on me today when I think about it. I watched him continue the legacy of my grandmother.
So he was sick and he was praying?
And he was praying for others because he now felt what it is when you're sick, how sometimes you need help and you don't know where it's going to come from. And he would just, anytime, he was so sensitive. And these are the teaching moments. I think that's where families, Shabbat tables, these discussions, these are where they come out. And I remember walking with him to synagogue one Shabbat. And we're walking together, and an ambulance comes running by, with the sirens, everything, And all of a sudden he stops and he's like mumbling something under his breath. And I'm like, Dad, everything okay? You like talking to yourself right now? We're in the street, like Big Avenue here, right? And he's like, no. He goes like this. I said, what'd you just do? I just said a chapter of Tehillim. I said, why'd you do that? He said, there's a sick person in that ambulance. They need help. I'm praying for them. Every time. Every time when I walked with him, my brother said the same thing after he passed away. We experienced the consistency of what he was teaching us about chesed, about caring, and the relationship with God that you're always You're always moving, you're always growing as a person, no matter what, no matter what's coming at you. And those are the biggest moments in life. Those are the biggest teaching moments in life that we can experience when we give ourselves the opportunity to do that. Going back to the original family, Avram and Sarah, what was their trademark? Chesed, acts of kindness, thinking of others. It's a value in society. Unfortunately, we live in a society which is very independent at times, and not so much thinking about others, and advancing our careers and moving forward. And even I think today, everyone's excited. Marijuana's going to be legalized soon, right? And everyone's pumped up about that, right?
Oh.
I'm not excited, trust me. Okay. Anyway, and just think about these things, and you go, 1 second. Okay, so now, and of course we could rationalize, just like with casinos and gambling and other things, that we're gonna pump in so much money, and we're gonna be able to do so many programs and help so many people, and great. How many other lives are we gonna destroy in the process? How many people are going to be challenged in their thinking abilities, in their relationship abilities? How many families will suffer? I don't know. I have a hard time as a rabbi saying that it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. And I look at just going back to our roots. Chesed was intrinsic. You want to give? It's not about trying to figure out ways, some roundabout ways to go ahead and give programs to hurting others. No. Give, invite people into your home for Shabbos. Invite people into your home for meals. Avram and Sarah stop people all the time. They started us off with that. That's the culture, that's the identity of who we are as Jews. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say right now, I'm inviting everyone to my house for a Friday night dinner or Shabbat, anytime you want. Open. And I'm serious about this, okay? Rabbi Garfinkel,
Yes,
you just
yeah.
give me whatever.
100%.
Anytime my wife and I know it, it's not, anytime I give a class, she says, okay, how many? It's not, this is what our kids knew, we grew up with it. This is the way we were taught. And that's one of the big three. That's the triangle offense. Our relationship with God, learning from our past, having those moments with our families, having the opportunity to build off chesed. And then I want to focus a drop on the Torah part, on the self-development and the growth that we all have through teachers and rabbis, such as a Rabbi Garfinkel. Give one for Rabbi Garfinkel, okay? Once in a while, I want to make you feel good. Is your mother listening? Anybody know?
She will now.
Okay, fine, that's all. Okay, that's all. All right. So in Torah, let me switch gears for a moment. I had the fortune of studying under some amazing, amazing rabbis in my youth and beyond. I just want to share a couple of stories of things that I saw and how you see that Torah it's not just a book that you learn from. And I used to tell this, I taught 8th grade for a couple of years in a day school as well. And I would tell this to my students all the time. I said, we don't learn Torah just to learn. It's not a knowledge thing. It's not how much you know, racking up the points of, I know this, I know that. No. You learn to live. You learn Torah to live by it. You learn Torah to live a value system that's meaningful and purposeful and that perpetuates to the next generation. That's what we do. And I watched there's a famous adage that said about educating a child according to their way. In education, no two children learn the same. No two adults learn the same, right? Everybody's different. We have different ways of processing, different ways of understanding. And one of the rabbis I studied under, Rabbi Yitzchak Feigelstock was his name, at Long Beach Yeshiva, the Sift of Long Beach, where I studied. And we, as students, noticed this. We were 3 years in his class, and we'd watch how he had a different relationship with everybody. And what do I mean? The students who thought they knew everything, he would have some strong conversations with them. You'd watch the conversations get animated. The students who were very timid, he would call them into his office to have discussions with them. Everybody he related to exactly the way they needed to be related to. And I remember myself, I was not the timid one. So, I didn't have to worry about that. I was on the recipient end of some of the other conversations, but the way that the respect that he had for all of us, and this man had so much knowledge and so much love for learning. And we'd sit in his class and study for an hour and a half. He'd give a lecture for an hour and a half, And then 3 days later, he would then give us a totally different approach to the lecture he gave us 3 days before and throw us all off. And we'd go to him and say, Rabbi, what are you doing? You know, I said, I'm teaching you how to study. I'm teaching you how to learn. First you look at it one way, first you look at it another way, first you look at it another way. He was so careful on how to give things over to everybody. And to me, it's a lesson for life. It's not something you just learn in a university. You're just learning something and then you get a degree and you move on. No, it's about anyone you relate to, any relationship, a spouse, child, sibling. You don't talk to everyone the same way. Everyone's different. You value each person for who they are. I watch that every day, and it left such a mark on me. And then I have another rabbi, years later, that I got to know, who was a study partner of my father's in yeshiva. So back to how he became a rabbi. And his name is Rabbi Elia Ber Wachvogel. You know, so he's got a yeshiva in South Fallsburg. Okay, that's the Catskills. And anytime he goes into New York, into Brooklyn, the city, it's a 2-hour ride. And he goes once a week. He travels. He has to raise funds for his institution, meet people, etc. Goes in for weddings, different things. And over the years, I've gotten a close relationship with him and asked him many questions in my personal life. Things that go on, things that happen, some direction, some guidance. Because Torah is not just, okay, read it and that's it. There are people who study it, breathe it, live it, and have a different way of looking at things sometimes. And giving you a different direction. But also showing you, again, the tremendous respect for people. And as I could, I'll share this one story, and then I'm going to wrap up with another one afterwards, okay? So my oldest daughter, Sarah, my oldest daughter was married for a short time and got divorced, less than a year later. And it was not a pretty situation, as one can imagine when something like that happens. And sometimes, as well, in every community, it's a challenging situation for a family. And it was our oldest, it was our first child, and very difficult rebuilding and starting life again. Thank God today she's married and has a wonderful son, wonderful husband, and all is great. But there were a couple of years of some hard times. During those times, this rabbi was my go-to. Called him up, I needed some advice, my wife and I needed some. We would fly out there to New York. He made time for me. I'd sit for 2 hours in his house and he'd talk to us. With my daughter, sometimes she went herself. We had all kinds of different situations. At one time, and this really stuck out to me, we really felt we needed a little pick-me-up, as you say, right? And we wanted to talk to him. And he said, I'm going to a wedding. Meet me at that wedding. At this time, I was in Brooklyn that day. And, right by the chuppah, the ceremony, after the ceremony, there's always like about an hour of dead time, because everyone's taking pictures, whatever. So there's a classroom on the side. We'll sit down and we'll talk. So I'm scratching my head. Are you sure? You're a busy man. No, fine. Exactly what it does. My wife and I and my daughter pull up to the wedding hall. We're not there for the wedding, actually. And we're just like, okay, we'll look a little respectable. He comes running out of the chuppah. He sees us. Says, okay, come here. No, sit down. Grabs a couple of chairs. And we talk for an hour. And then he runs back and goes back to the family. And I'm watching this, scratching my head as well. What dedication. What an amazing person. Where does this come from? Where does this come from? Do you see this in society? In society, the bigger people become, the less accessible they are. In Judaism and in Torah, when people follow these paths, the bigger they are, the more accessible they become. And they make themselves accessible to you. And that to me is something I'll never forget, where someone had that dedication. And what Torah means, it's not just learning, it's living a connection with the people, living that inspiration, living that giving over, and wanting to be there for everyone around them. So I'm going to close with, I've got two stories. I'm going to say one story. Okay? Two? Okay. I don't know if I'm going
man.
Okay, we'll see. So let's just wrap up a little bit of a summary. As I mentioned, the triangle offense of Torah, Avodah, and Chesed. Learning from our past. Learning from our grandparents, parents. And again, when I asked why we're all here today, that's the one question I didn't answer, is because someone along the line, through all the persecutions and exiles of the Jewish people, of our ancestry, someone made a choice and said, we're going to still identify as Jews, and we're still going to connect as Jews. And we still identify today because of our past, because of the people of the past who made those decisions and understood the value of the family, the value of kindness, the value of Torah, Avodah, and Chesed. And now just a short story from my father's rabbinate in Rhode Island, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, where he was. And when he joined the synagogue in 1969, which was a very amazing time in the world of tremendous respect in society for elders and everybody around you. I'm just saying that if you look in your history, not really. And what happened was, he walks into the synagogue and he's all on fire, just got out of rabbinic school. He's going to teach, he's going to... And some people say, Rabbi, leave me alone. I know, I come to synagogue, I pay my dues, okay, stop with this classes stuff, okay, this is, 60s America, we're enjoying ourselves. Okay, and he taught classes to as many people as he could. And there was this one guy, Tommy, who just gave him the real cold shoulder. Okay, he said, Rabbi, leave me. Years later, at the 75th anniversary of the synagogue, they invited my father to come back and speak. He comes back to speak, and lo and behold, Tommy is the man who started 2-day schools, built the ritual mikvah in the community, did all kinds of things. Tommy is the man holding up the entire community. And Tommy is absolutely a totally different person than when he first met him. So my father walks over to him, because we have this trait in the family, none of us are shy. And he walks over to him right away, and he says, Tommy. And Tommy says, yeah, remember me, Rabbi? Tommy, what happened? Tell me, your life changed. I mean, you're a different man now. And Tommy shares the following story. He said, listen, Judaism, nice, it was good. I understand, I belonged to a synagogue, my parents. So I sent my kids to Jewish day school, to the Hebrew school at the time. I wanted to get a Jewish education. I said, but I didn't need to learn that much myself. That's what I told you, Rabbi. And then one day I came home from work, 5 o'clock, when people used to come home from work at 5 o'clock, and he comes home, and I walked into the dining room, and my little son, 7 years old, stood up for me. And I looked at him and I said, why'd you stand up? And the kid says, well, we learned in Hebrew school today that one of the laws of honoring a parent is when they walk in the room, you stand up for them. So I'm just doing what what they taught. So I'm standing up for you, Dad. The kid's did I do something wrong? And in that time in society, people would scratch it. He's standing up for a parent? And it blew him away. That this is what Judaism teaches? Teaches such respect? He said, I've got this all wrong. I got to figure out, why am I running away from learning? Let me find out what this is about. And he went on a path, on a mission to learn about Judaism. Hence, Tommy changed his whole life around, and his whole family. And they have generations and generations of Jews today connected to Judaism because of that little 7-year-old boy standing up for his dad. Beautiful, real. So you said you needed another story? Still okay. So here we go. All right. So that, and wrapping it back to the title, is connecting to the past to lead into the future. That little child took the lessons of Torah and the halacha, the Jewish law, and just did it. And he transformed his entire family for generations. And it doesn't stop there. It goes even beyond. Not just in this world, as we call the eternal world. Right? Even after people pass on, there's things that we could do to, as we say, elevate their souls. The soul never dies. And years after my father had passed away, and my wife lost both her parents in 1 year as well, a few years after that, we as a family had decided that we wanted to do something to honor our parents. And they taught us lessons. We live a life based on what they taught us, and it means something. So we said we wanted to dedicate a Torah scroll, the Sefer Torah, Torah scroll, to the synagogue that we go to. It'll be read in the synagogue every week. And what more befitting way to do it? They taught us the lessons of Torah, a Torah in their memory. That was what we wanted to do. One problem, it costs a lot of money. Rabbis don't get paid that much, right? So we're trying to figure out. And my wife and I said, listen, we want to do this for our parents, let's try. And we contacted some people, relatives, and we had, a little bit of money started to be put together, and we're like, okay, we're going to make this happen. The scribe was a family friend who called me up and said, okay, we're getting ready. Takes a while to write the Torah. First down payment is going to be coming soon, right? I said, yeah, we're going to make it. Then comes that, I think it was 2009, when that stock market really didn't do that well. And all those people who pledged money started to tell me, sorry, I can't. I had a little extra money here, I had a little extra money here. And then we were left to just the donation of my wife and I. And we were looking at this sheet and saying, there's no way. We can't do this. And it was Saturday night. I remember vividly sitting at the table. And my wife said, okay, you got to call him back and tell him we just can't do it. I know we want to do it, but we just can't. So I said, just give me one day. I can't do it now. Give me another day. So Sunday morning, I'm at synagogue. Sometimes you get a moment where you really have a heartfelt prayer. You don't have that moment where you just and I had one of these moments where I just said, God, we want to do this for our parents. We really want to do this for the right reasons. Just give me a sign. And then I said to myself, what did I just do? I challenged, and I'm like, no, I mean it, really, just, if we really want to do it for the right reasons, show me. Okay. Maybe I'm a little crazy, a little nuts, rabbi, whatever, okay. I finish my prayers, my Salat Amidah. It's a Sunday morning. I usually give a class Sunday morning in the synagogue there. The guy walks in, never comes in on a Sunday. Never there. And he's just, I see him in the back, pulling out something from his pocket, he's writing something. And he walks over to me. And he puts a check on my lectern where I was praying. He says, Rabbi, I overheard you the other night talking about the concept of dedicating a Sefer Torah. No one knew about this except one other person in the synagogue. He overheard the conversation. He said, I want to be the first one to donate. And he put a $1,000 check on my lectern and said, I want to be a part of it. This is 5 minutes after I just prayed for a sign. Now, it doesn't happen all the time. Please, don't try this at home. I've prayed many times and haven't gotten the answer right away, okay? But I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. I have this, I said, what? I didn't tell you. You just overheard. I'm begging. I'm crying. I want, I said, okay. I called my wife up right after that and I said, okay, I'm going to explain to her when I get home after my class, we're doing the Sefer Torah. There's no way we're not doing it. It's going to happen. And she said, what? I'll tell you later. Hang up the phone, one of those conversations, you can't get into it right away. Get home, explain to her what happened. Says, you know what? We're going to write letters. Anybody we know, we're going to get out there. We're going to get people to donate. It's going to happen. $50,000 later, it happened. Thursday before the dedication, which was on a Sunday, Memorial Day weekend, the last check came in, and the scribe was totally paid off. And we dedicated the Torah under an amazing day, and today it's being read for the last 11 years in the memory of our parents. So parents are not just past, leading you to the future. For us, it's also looking back and reflecting and eternalizing their teachings, memorializing them, and being able to pass it on to our children too. As even my children would say, at that time we wanted to buy a new car because the old car wasn't doing that great. I said, no, we're putting away money for the Torah. And the kids chipped in, and everyone chipped in. We're doing this for Bobby and Zadie. We're doing this for the family. And the pride that everyone had that we're carrying on something so special. That everyone, years in the past, who died for what they believed in, were living for what we believe in. So that's my message to all of you. Let's live for what we believe in. You're a great group, as you seem to be listening at least. It's good. I like talking. People like listening. It's good. It works good. And I'm serious about any Shabbat, any time. Seriously, love to get to schmooze with everybody, get to know everybody, And my wife and I now are empty nesters, so we really are kind of bored as well at home. So we like to have some guests, like a little action at home, it's good. So please take us up on it, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.